Hey guys, welcome to today's lesson. We're going to start off by doing the bell ringer. So you're going to write the equation of the line that passes through the points 0, -1, and -4, -2. So write the equation of the line that goes through those points. Remember, you do that by first finding the slope, then using a point and the slope to find the y-intercept, and then substituting into the equation. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way through it, and then unpause it for the solution. So the first thing you need to do to write the equation is you need to find the slope. Remember, we find slope by using m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to substitute in my values for my x2, x1, y2, y1 for my points. So I will use -2 minus -1 over -4 minus 0. -2 minus -1 is -1 over -4 minus 0, which is -4. So we have -1 over -4, which gives us 1/4. So my slope is 1/4. Now I need to find my y-intercept. So I'm going to substitute what I have into my equation of y equals mx plus b. Well, I know m is 1/4. I can get a y value and an x value from my points above. So I'm going to use the point 0, -1, where -1 is the y value, and 0 is the x value. And then we're left with the plus b. I need to solve for b. Well, 1/4 times 0 is just 0, so I have 0 plus b, giving me -1 is equal to b. Now all I have to do is just substitute what I have into y equals mx plus b. So my equation will be y equals 1/4 x minus 1. So there is the equation of my line. Now, as a little refresher on graphing, let's go ahead and graph the equation y equals 1/4 x minus 1. Remember, when we are graphing, we start with, or we begin with, our y-intercept. So I will begin at -1. So at -1, I will put a point. And then I move with my slope. So I'm going to rise 1, so rise up 1, and run 4. Give myself a point. Or I could have gone down 1 and to the left 4, so a point here. And then to finish up my graph, all I need to do is just draw a line that goes through my points. So here is our line. So today we'll be going through section 6-7, standard form. But before we start talking about that, let's talk a little bit about intercepts. The x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis. And since that is where the line crosses the x-axis, the y value of the x-intercept is 0. So every single x-intercept has a y value of 0. Now we know what a y-intercept is. It's where the line crosses the y-axis. We've been dealing with that for quite a while. The value of the y-intercept, the x value of the y-intercept is 0. So like we've said before, every single x value of the y-intercept is 0. So with that in mind, we're going to find the x and y intercepts of the equation 3x minus 4y equals 24. So to find my intercepts, I'm going to use what we have above. So if I would want to find the x-intercept, let's go ahead and find that first. Let's find the x-intercept first. If I want to find that, I'm going to use the fact that I know the y value of the x-intercept is 0. I'm going to use that because To get to the x-intercept, I have to go over an x value, but up 0. So I know that the y has to be equal to 0 for my x-intercept. Well, since the x-intercept is a point, there's an x value that goes with that y value. So if I use my equation, 3x minus 4y equals 24, and I substitute in the y value 0, I will be able to solve for x. Now this is pretty easy because I substituted 0, and 4 times 0 is just 0. So I have 3x is equal to 24. Divide by 3, and I get x equals 8. So my x-intercept is 8, 0. To find my y-intercept, I'm going to do something very, very similar. I'm going to use the fact that I know that the x value at the y-intercept is 0 to find my y-intercept. And remember, the x value is 0 because to get to my y-intercept, since it is on the y-axis, I have to go over 0, then up a y value. So x will be equal to 0 at the y-intercept. So I am going to use I'll use my equation 3x minus 4y equals 24. And since I want to find the y value that goes with the x value 0, I will substitute in a 0 for x. And solve for y. Well, 3 times 0 is just 0, so I have negative 4y equals 24. Divide by negative 4. And I get y equals negative 6. So my point for my y-intercept is 0, negative 6. So, as a recap, to find the x and y-intercepts, to find the x-intercept, you substitute a 0 in for y and find x. And to find the y-intercept, you substitute a 0 in for x and find y. So it's pretty simple stuff. Just remember these two facts up here and you will be fine in finding your x and y intercepts. So now we ask the question, how many points do we need to graph an equation? Or how many points do we need to graph a line? Well, to graph a line, we need 2 points. Because if we can connect those 2 points, we're able to make our line. So, the question is, how can we use the concept we just discussed to graph the equation without putting it in its slope-intercept form? We could put this equation in y equals mx plus b form. We're actually going to do that to check our answer. But I can also graph it another way. And since we need 2 points to graph an equation, and we just talked about how to find 2 points, the x-intercept and the y-intercept, I can graph this equation. So, I need to find my x-intercept and my y-intercept. Now, the x-intercept, I know that y has to be equal to 0. Has to be equal to 0 for my x-intercept. So I'm going to take the equation 4x plus 3y equal to 12. Substitute in my 0. Give me 4x plus 3 times 0 equal to 12. Since 3 times 0 is 0, I'm just let the 4x equals 12. Divide by 4. And x is equal to 3. So my x-intercept is 3, 0. So let's go ahead and plot that point. 3, 0. Now to find my y-intercept, I know on my y-intercept x is equal to 0. Again, use my equation 4x plus 3y equals 12. This time I'm going to substitute the 0 in for x. So 4 times 0 plus 3y equal 12. 4 times 0 is just 0, so don't worry about that. Divide both sides by 3, and I get y is equal to 4. Making my y-intercept 0, 4. So I go over and plot the point 0, 4. That gives me the line that looks like this. So we have our line. Now to check my answer, I'm going to set my equation 4x plus 3y equal to 12. I'm going to take that equation and put it in y equals mx plus b form. So that means I'll take 4x plus 3y equal 12, and to put it in y equals mx plus b form, I have to solve for y. I have to get y alone. Well, that means I need to get rid of the 4x. To get rid of a positive 4x, I subtract 4x from both sides. 4x's cancel out. I'm left with 3y equal to, since 12 and negative 4x are not like terms, I just leave it as 12 minus 4x. Now I also need to get rid of the 3, so I divide both sides by 3. And since I am dividing everything by 3, I'm just going to take 12 over 3 and negative 4x over 3. 3's on the left cancel out. I'm left with y equals 12 over 3 is 4 minus 4/3 x. Now, this equation doesn't look like our normal y equals mx plus b because the x term is second. But that doesn't change anything. We can still find our m, which is negative 4/3, the number multiplying x, and our b, which is 4. So I go over to my equation, begin with my b up at 4, and I need to have a slope of negative 4/3, so I can go down 4 and run 3 to the right, putting me right on my line. So there we have it. Our line is correct. So, ladies and gentlemen, we just graphed an equation that was in standard form. An equation is in standard form when it is in the form of ax plus by equals c. So you have all your x terms and your y terms on the left and your constants on the right. To graph an equation in standard form, you can either put it in slope-intercept form, so that's your y equals mx plus b, or you can find your intercepts, which is what we did in the previous two slides. So we have the example 5x minus 4y equals negative 20. We're going to graph this by finding the slope-intercept form and the intercepts. So let's start off with putting in the y equals mx plus b. So I need to take 5x minus 4y equal to negative 20 and get y alone. So subtract 5x from both sides. 5x's on the left cancel out. I'm left with negative 4y equals negative 20 minus 5x. Last step is to get rid of the negative 4, so I need to divide everything by negative 4. Negative 4 is the left cancel out. I'm left with y is equal to negative 20 divided by negative 4 is a positive 5. And a negative 5x divided by negative 4 is a positive 5 over 4x. And for those of you that are a little uncomfortable with that x being second, it's okay to rewrite it as y equals 5/4 x plus 5. So let's go ahead and graph that. My starting point, my beginning point is a positive 5. So go up on the y-axis 5. And my slope is 5/4, so I will fall 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Run to the right. I'm sorry, to the left 4 to have a positive slope. 1, 2, 3, 4. Give myself a point. And I will have my line. So I can also graph that line by finding the intercepts. So let's find our intercepts. When we do that, by, again, taking our equation and using x equals 0. That one will find our y-intercept. And y equals 0 to find our x-intercept. So let's go ahead and take our equation, 5x minus 4y equals negative 20. And I will substitute in my x equals 0, so 5 times 0 minus 4y equals negative 20. 5 times 0 is just 0, so I have negative 4y equals negative 20. Divide by negative 4. And I get y equals 5. So my point is 0, 5. To find the x-intercept, I take 5x minus 4y equals negative 20. And I substitute in a 0 for y, so 5x minus 4 times 0 equals negative 20. Since 4 times 0 is just 0, I have 5x equals negative 20. Divide both sides by 5. And I get x is equal to negative 4. So my point is negative 4, 0. So I go ahead and plot those points. I have 0, 5 as a point, so I go over 0, up 5. And then I have negative 4, 0, so I go to the left 4 and up 0. And again, our points match up for a line, so we're good. Now, whenever you're graphing these, you only need to do it one way. You don't have to do it both. You can do it if you want to check, but you only need to do one. So you can use your intercepts, or you can use y equals mx plus b to graph the line, whichever you would like. So for your huddle, you will graph each of the equations. They are both in standard form. So you can graph either of them, whichever way you would like. Just make sure you have a correct line for each. So go ahead, pause the video, work through each of these, and when you're complete, unpause the video. So here are the solutions to the two huddle problems. The first one, I found the intercepts by substituting y equals 0 in and x equals 0. And then the second one, excuse me. The second one, I set it equal to y, put it in y equals mx plus b form, and then graphed it. This problem says, in the game of paper football, you get 6 points for a touchdown and 1 point for a field goal. Marco scored X touchdowns and Y field goals for a total of 20 points. We need to write an equation in standard form that describes the relationship between X and Y. So to write our equation, let's take a look at what it tells us. It tells us we get 6 points for a touchdown, and that we're using X for touchdowns. And then it also says we get 1 point for a field goal, and that we are using Y field goals. So 6 points for a touchdown, and we don't know how many touchdowns we have. That'll be 6x, and Y for field goals, and it's 1 point for a field goal, so we don't know how many field goals we get, so it'll just be 1y or y. And it also tells us we have a total of 20 points. And we get that by adding our touchdowns, adding our field goals, so our equation will be 6x plus y equal to 20. So we need to give 3 solutions to our equation in part A. We can get 2 of those solutions really easily. We can get one solution by using a scenario where we don't have any field goals, so when y is equal to 0, or in other words, finding our x-intercept. And we can also do the same thing where we don't score any touchdowns, so x would be equal to 0. So let's go ahead and solve for wherever y equals equal to 0. So that means we have 6x plus 0 equals 20. So 6x is equal to 20. Divide by 6. And x is equal to, well, wait a second, 20 over 6 isn't a whole number. So that means that y being 0 will not work. Y being 0 will not work. So we'll have to scratch that. That one will not work. So we'll get rid of that one. We'll have to come back and see if we can find another one. Now we'll check out whenever x is equal to 0. So whenever x is equal to 0, we will substitute that into our equation. 6x plus y equal to 20, and solve for y. So let's see if this one will work. So 6 times 0 plus y is equal to 20. Well, 6 times 0 is 0, so we have y is equal to 20. So if you score 20 field goals, so 20 field goals and 0 touchdowns, that is one solution. So now I need to find two more solutions. Now we could start plugging in numbers and guessing and checking, but we can be more efficient than that. If I take my equation, 6x plus y equal to 20, then I solve it for one of my variables, it will allow me to substitute in a value and get the other one out. So we'll have the number of touchdowns and field goals. So if I solve it for y, I'm subtracting 6x from both sides, I'll get y equals 20 minus 6x. So if I substitute the number of touchdowns, it'll tell me how many field goals I will also have. So say I make x equals 1, so we have 1 touchdown. Well, then I have y is equal to 20 minus 6 times 1, which will just be 14. So I can have 1 touchdown and 14 field goals. So I could keep doing that for almost any whole number as long as I keep my 6 times that number less than 20. So you can find your third one by doing that. So here we have another football problem. On December 3rd, 2006, the Jacksonville Jaguars defeated the Miami Dolphins by a score of 24-10. Each team scored only 7 points, touchdown and extra point, or 3 points, which is a field goal. So they only scored by touchdown and extra point or field goals. We need to write an equation in standard form that describes the relationship between the touchdowns and extra points, T, and the field goals, F. And we are doing this for the Jaguars. So since the Jaguars scored the 24 points, this is very similar to the last problem. We know that extra points is T, but we don't know how many touchdowns and extra points they made. And field goals is F, we don't know how many they made. So my equation will be 24 is equal to 7 times the amount of touchdowns and extra points they had, plus 3 times the number of field goals they had, so 3F. So my equation is 24 is equal to 7T plus 3F. So there is my equation for the Jaguars. Now we have to give two solutions to this equation where T and F are integers, meaning that they have to be whole numbers. So my equation 24 equal to 7T plus 3F. We're going to do the same thing we did last time, in which we're going to solve for one of our variables. Or guess and check. Either will work. So let's go ahead and just guess. So let's guess that, let's say t is equal to 0 and see if that'll work. Well, if t equals 0, that gives me 24 is equal to 7 times 0 plus 3f, leaving me with 24 equal to 3f. Divide both sides by 3. And I get 8 is equal to f. So 0 touchdowns and 8 field goals will work for this solution. Let's go ahead and guess another easy number. So let's guess, say, f equal to 1. So I'll take my equation. 24 is equal to 7t plus 3f. And I will use 1 for f, so plus 3 times 1. So I need to solve this for t, so I have 24 is equal to 7t plus 3, subtract 3, giving me 21 is equal to 7t, divide by 7, and I get t is equal to 3. So 3 touchdowns and 1 field goal will also be a solution. So there we have our two solutions: 0 touchdowns and 8 field goals, or 1 field goal and 3 touchdowns. So we'll finish up today's lesson by completing this mastery. So go ahead and graph the equation again. You can substitute zeros to find your intercepts, or use your y equals mx plus b equations. Go ahead and pause the video, and then when you're ready for the solution, unpause it. So here's the solution to the graph. I again solved it both ways. Like I said, on your homework, you can solve it either way, either the intercepts or the y equals mx plus b. It doesn't matter to me, whichever works best for you. So, thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and get started on your homework.